My name is Ted Leo. Thank you for coming out early. Honored to be a part of this. I'm going to play a song alone, and then I'm going to bring my new band, Combat Zone, out. And I was trying to think of something, fun and up to play as a warm-up, but given everything that's gone on in the last couple of weeks and yesterday, I decided to play a different song. And it's something that I wrote to go along with my friend Spencer Ackerman's book, Reign of Terror, which is about, props to Spencer, the rise and maintenance of the security state post 9/11 and its post-Vietnam white supremacist origins. And we made it a benefit for two organizations in Texas, the Jane's Due Process and the Frontera Fund, who are helping women get abortions and other health care that they need down there. And the reason that we did that is because the policing of borders and the policing of women's bodies are absolutely joined issues in the maintenance of patriarchal, white, Christian, nationalist power structure. So, on that note, no mood has really been set yet, but I'm going to quote Robert Plant at Live Aid and say, we're going to take the mood down a little bit, but maybe lift it up. Angel baby, modern mother, I'm gonna get you a gun. Stick figures for the minivan. This is how the West was won. Angel, make me a father, brother, forever the only one. Get in the car, the engine's on, and forever it will run. Won't you teach me how you taught her, our fabled daughter, how she oughta go to Vichy, taste the slaughter. It's in the water, in the water. Let's roll down to the border, love, join it as we go along. Drag that cane through the sky above as we run into the conquering sun. The conquering sun, into the conquering sun. The conquering sun, into the conquering sun. The conquering sun, the conquering sun, the conquering sun. Roads melting, radios, everyone must sing along to the metastatic static. That's our song. That's our song. Stable claims need a set's cover, someone to wedge and shun from the hegemon. The label cane seed, the set's other, and the story is done, even as it's begun. Let's roll down to the border, love, Johnny, as we go along. Drag that cane through the sky above, never done. To the conquering sun, the Thank you.
We are back. It's 25 past the hour. You're listening to the Ken and Ken Show. You got me, the Deuce, the undisputed king of the third wave of conservative talk in the Stoughton area, also including the South Shore area, or at least parts of it, and soon via the internet, the wide world web, we're going to be in the New Bedford area as well. Of course, joining me as usual, the new dork, and as usual, completely AWOL is Scotzo, Dave 512, the guy never showing up at work.
Typical.
Calls in one day with the sniffles, never shows up again. So screw that guy, whatever, wherever he is.
Some vacation with Fauci.
Yeah, I'm sure. Whatever, going around talking about an IROC Z, and then all of a sudden you never hear from the guy again. Anyways, so I was reading the paper, and check this out. According to the paper, on January 16th, just 10 days after the holiday of January 6th, you know that guy who crashed the debate with Steven Crowder, the huge troll guy?
Troll guy, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that fembot from the Majority Report, which I happen to call the Minority Report because they have so many black people on, they are coming to the Wilbur Theater, apparently, 10 days after the holiday of January 6th on January 16th. And I don't know what's going on there, some type of like gay pride parade or something. But they're coming in, and with their femme show, their soy boy stuff, and, talking about all their being, liberal stuff.
Not the Wilbur.
Yeah, they're besmirching the Wilbur Theater. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't step a foot into Massachusetts. And so here's my challenge for that guy. He thinks he's so smart. He wants to have a debate. I'll debate you. I'll debate you on any topic you want.
Game on.
How about you got your Bill Gates and your George Soros is flying you in on their private vaccine jet or whatever it is, while you're coming in on the Lolita Express or whatever. I'll debate you. But of course we'll never hear from him because he's a soy boy and he's a fembot and he's afraid probably of actually defending his positions, which are completely authoritarian and disgusting.
I think we should just storm the Wilbur.
Yeah, maybe we'll just go buy the Wilbur at that point. We'll see. Anyways, we got some other stuff to talk about. Fauci. Everybody loves Anthony Fauci. I'll tell you this about that guy. He's like a puppy molester or something.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
92. You're listening to the 5-time award-winning Majority Report live from the Wilbur Theater in Boston, Massachusetts. Ted Leo and Combat Zone. Oh, that is so awesome.
A little bit more energy with the live band.
What's that?
A little bit more energy when the band's right
A
behind.
little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Leck. Emma Vigeland. Today on the program, special guest, Natalie Shure, columnist at the New Republic, John Burkhardt and Nora Maynard of Extinction Rebellion will be here. And we should just say, let's do this. Let's just play this. This is going to happen later in the program, ladies and gentlemen. If you will, go. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen, in the fun half today. The debate you always wanted to see. But first, I would like to welcome our secret special guest. This is someone who I have had the opportunity to interview in the past and also had the pleasure of working with for a couple of years. Ladies and gentlemen, Al Franken.
Hey, Sam. Hey, buddy. Thank you.
We just little social distance.
I noticed you're not social distancing from everybody else.
Well,
You want me to wear a mask? I got my mask.
oh no, that's good. You're fine. That's fine. I had the pleasure of seeing your show last night, folks. If you ever have the opportunity to see Al on his tour, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And of course, you've got a podcast as well.
Yeah, it's called the Al Franken podcast. I have a lot of great guests. The one that we dropped today, Dahlia Lithwick and Joyce Vance, of course, on the Alito leak. And we have guests like Sarah Silverman. We're talking about Sarah. And, Michael Lewis, guests like Michelle Obama. Not Michelle Obama, but guests like her.
So, nice.
It's a joke.
I'm going to use that.
It's the kind of thing you'll be hearing on the only former U.S. Senator currently on tour.
Very specific. Now, all right, so that's it. Let me just, I was going to open by asking you questions about your exit from the Senate. I've heard the answers on other podcasts, and I went and I reread the Jane Mayer piece in The New Yorker, and I just got very, very angry that...
Jane Mayer, one of the best in the business.
One of the best reporters out there. And so, if you don't mind, I'm going to bypass that and get to just the question of why does Chuck Schumer stink so bad?
Why?
Chuck Schumer, so bad.
Okay.
Spill the tea.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm not there, so it's hard for me. I do keep in touch with some of my former colleagues. Chuck isn't one of them, but I'm not there, so it's hard for me to exactly be knowledgeably critical of the inside. But starting in October, I started on my podcast saying the Build Back Better, you can't say Build Back Better now because it just means failure, failure. But the elements of it, which the American people didn't hear because all they hear from the press is horse race and inside baseball, but they didn't hear that this was universal pre-K, child tax credit,
paid leave, parental leave, paid sick leave.
Child care. I want to read something. So this other countries, every European country subsidizes child care. And the average that they subsidize it to is $7,000 per child. We just don't do this. And I read this last night, but this is McConnell after... I do McConnell, so I think you'll enjoy this. This is after Biden's first speech to the joint session. And this is McConnell addressing childcare. And I'm going to make the argument that we should have dropped these things individually and made Republicans vote on them. So this is him on the childcare part of Build Back Better. This administration wants Americans using the kind of childcare arrangements that Democrats want them to pursue. And instead of encouraging work and rewarding work,
really good,
and helping to connect more Americans with opportunities to work and build their lives, this administration is working overtime to break the link between work and income. They want to break the link between work and income. Now, why do people want child care so they go to work? This is McConnell might as well have been saying, I'm completely out of touch. I haven't talked to a normal person in 30 years. This is one after another. These pieces are incredibly popular. Why didn't we drop them on the floor? We didn't get any of them done. These had like 70% approval if you tested them. And yeah, Manchin would have gone for some of them, put them on the floor, make Republicans vote against them, and have a debate and let the American people see what they are, and they would have been, and negotiate on pharmaceuticals on Medicare? Jesus Christ.
But how about before that, right? Why would they split infrastructure from Build Back Better? That's my question.
That's a big debate, and I think the progressives who said don't do that turned out to be right.
Well, what else is new, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
We should say also, if you didn't want to break the relationship between work and income, maybe you shouldn't tax work at a 20% higher rate than you do just investing in playing in the stock markets or investing in crypto. I mean,
Trump has tapped into resentment, right? And if you look at the people who are the MAGA people and the base now of the Republican Party, they want to raise taxes on rich people. They resent rich people. They resent the elites. They want to do that. We should be, Paul Wellstone, who was, Paul Wellstone once said, or always said, we all do better when we all do better. Right. And that mantra is so true. Remember when the 35W bridge collapsed in Minnesota? I came up with this line, which is that when a bridge collapses, a Mercedes drops as fast as a Hyundai. We all do better when we all do better. When there is a solid middle class, when people at the bottom have enough to eat. When, they've shown that when you give families, as they were in the child tax credit, that enough money, they did studies on this, the kids' brain development increases. This is like, we are fucked. Oh, sorry. Is this an FCC thing? This is...
Go
we're not broadcasting on radio. I could be fined.
You can have multiple of those if you want.
Okay. Anyway, it's very frustrating, but I swear we should have been dropping those things individually.
What is your opinion about the having the rate in which they brought up Build Back Better after the COVID relief? Because there was that period of time where Biden invited the Republicans in. He had, I don't know, a dozen in to go over whether they have a proposal. Of course, they don't. And then he brought in Sinema and Portman, which led to the decoupling, ultimately, of, why didn't they just go right into it? Do they still believe that, did Joe Biden sincerely believe that 6 months after Donald Trump was gone, like they were all just going to revert to, I don't know what, to like 1955 or something? Honestly, like...
or revert to just pre-2008. Pre-Obama. McConnell kind of ruined the Senate completely. That was the beginning. When Obama got in, McConnell told his caucus, our goal is to make sure Obama's a one-term president. He filibustered as many executive nominees of Obama's as had been filibustered in the entire previous history of the country. And he really broke the Senate. I just...
Was Joe Biden not aware of that? He was there. McConnell wasn't going anywhere. Why didn't Joe Biden think that McConnell was going to do the same thing?
I think what he felt was, I'm not there, and I think that Schumer handed the dealing with Manchin over to the White House at a certain point, but it just went on and on and on and on, and at a certain point you got a Fisher cut bait, and that's when, and I think again that was like, it was clear to me in early fall. These are incredibly popular provisions, and they will help the country. And just put them on the floor and make them debate it. Also, I was proposing filibuster reform that I've been talking to Manchin about, and I thought I had him for a while, which was to flip it from, instead of 60 votes to break a filibuster, you needed 41 to sustain a filibuster, and the 41 had to be on the floor, and they had to stay there. They had to keep 41 there and debate.
Right.
And that would restore the filibuster to what it had been, which was something that was rare.
At one point, he said he was open to that talking filibuster thing in the spring, I think it was. Yes. And again, they just allowed for too much time to pass, it seems. All right, well, so fair enough. You're not in the Senate now, so you can't really speak to Tommy Tuberville. But who was the stupidest senator?
It's between him and Portman, right? Right?
No, you mean between him and Johnson, Ron Johnson.
Oh, Ron Johnson. Yeah. All right.
Portman is as Republicans go, is very smart.
Okay.
There's some smart Republicans, but Ron Johnson's pretty amazing.
I think that's what I meant. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
I got a couple of Ron Johnson stories. Here's one I tell that I think is people like the most. So after McCain did the thumbs down, remember McCain had brain cancer at that time, and I told John he went back to Arizona. I didn't know if I'd see him again, right? And so I said, well, John, I'm going to just write you a bad news, good news joke every week. So he goes to Arizona, and then a couple days after the thumbs down, Ron Johnson is on a Wisconsin radio show and says that the only reason that McCain did the thumbs down is that he has brain cancer and he's addled. This is about stupid, not just about being a dick, but also. So I wrote, John, the bad news is you have brain cancer. The good news is that Ron Johnson's ass cancer has moved to his mouth. And John came back. John came back again, and when I had written him one a week. And when he saw me on the floor, he came to the floor and he saw me and he pointed at me and he said, "That man has earned every dollar he ever made. Not here in the Senate, but at SNL." And so John McCain was very smart, but Johnson is, time and time again, is one of the...
Do the other senators get around and say, like, God, Ron Johnson's such an idiot? Like, do they, do they all hush in the cafeteria when he comes in? Or?
It's just
commissary.
It has to be the
I don't know. I don't discuss with my Republican colleagues, do you hide, your contempt for his... John, it's amazing. Another story. One of the first times I actually talked to him there was a spouse dinner, which is exactly what it sounds like. The Senate spouses have an organization. They throw a dinner. And it's a night you make nice, and we're mingling. And he comes back to me and he said, "I just talked to your wife for a while, and your family is just like mine." And I couldn't even ask him, what the fuck, what do you mean? And I think it was, they went to college, they married white people.
Right.
I don't know what the hell he meant. But I just said, nah.
There's a lot of really different ways that could have been offensive, I feel like.
No piercings. I don't know.
What do you make of, so you talk about how McConnell ruined the Senate, right? What do you make of the inability for most Democrats to recognize that this is the opposition party that they're dealing with?
That this is what?
The opposition party that they're dealing with, and actually oppose them, right? I mean, frankly, I think there's still this impulse that they can work together and that this party is not as extreme as maybe their rhetoric is. There's like this cognitive dissonance that I feel, most people, everybody in this room, I think, we recognize Republicans for who they are. But Democratic senators don't seem to have that ability right now.
It is a little strange, and I think there's just... I have this idea after we just had this vote on abortion to codify that abortion is legal, and we went down, 49-51. And I think we should go on offense, and I think we should drop a bill that says we should codify that people have a right to contraception. And just... And Republicans, go ahead and vote against that.
Yeah.
Because 95% of Americans are for contraception. So I would just, first of all, I think it would pass. It'll pass. And, you know, then I get like, oh, well, then it takes the focus. No, you can do two things at once. Mm-hmm. And just get aggressive, play offense. I don't think we...
Because contraception is next. That's next. That's what they're going to target next, contraception, Republicans in these state legislatures.
Well, yeah, already the governor of Mississippi said that might be next. I mean, of course, we know the different places they're going. But this is one where when I say 95%, I think that's the data of what percentage of Roman Catholic women use contraception, and I think it turns out that Roman Catholic women use contraception more, at a little higher percentage than, like, say, evangelicals or something. But it's really high. So if you're like a congressman in Pennsylvania in a purple district, are you going to vote to say, no, women shouldn't have the right?
I mean, they're working on that. I mean, and to a certain extent, and you know what we saw in the votes that the Republicans took and Manchin took against the protection, the codifying the protections of Roe v. Wade, they were claiming that it was too extreme. Like you're like protecting Roe, you're going even further, to like post-birth abortions or whatever presumably it was. And they wouldn't have that opportunity with the contraception. Like you're really, really preventing pregnancy. Too much would be hard for them to verbalize, I guess. But
I just laugh. I just laugh at the idea of them going, "Ooh, how do I vote on this?"
But why aren't they thinking of this? I mean, it's a good idea, but it's.
Well, and I've run it by a couple of my colleagues, and they're going, well, you have to run it by leadership, and I haven't heard anything, and this is like it's a 4-day-old idea, but, I've talked to some, I won't say who, but some women in that field of reproductive rights, and they like it, so I don't know. I think I'm right here.
Do you have a sense of what? Do you have a sense of what leadership thinks they're doing? Like we know what they should be doing, being aggressive and being on offense. What would they say they are doing?
Boy, that's a really good question. They just seem to be again. Build Back Better was something he said in his first joint session speech. And at a certain point, you go like, okay, Manchin he's just a moving target. We can never nail him down. Let's go to the floor with this. I do not know. I think they're trying to do something on climate energy, and I think they're hopefully trying to do something on taxes. I think Manchin is for raising taxes. He's now become a budget hawk or something like that. And so at least he's for raising taxes on high-income people, which is, of course. Yeah. And then closing loopholes, and which there's just huge loopholes for wealthy people. And but I don't know where that's going, and it's just taking so long. I was hoping, the reason I was doing this back in October, I was so impatient. I said, let's get some of these things passed so they can start working before the midterm.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Manchin. Now I want to know if you have any Manchin stories. Right? You said you worked with him on, I'm curious what that man's brain is like and what it's like to work with him. Because it seems frustrating as, and now I'll go blue too, fuck.
Well, I say this about Joe. He was a friend, and he's a very good politician, and you'll notice his ratings are extremely high in West Virginia.
They went up 17 points after he essentially destroyed the Democratic agenda.
Yeah.
That's
and
that's
you
a
know,
problem.
you're thanking God that he was there, and as a Democrat when we passed the initial relief package, and
the courts,
of course, and then of course that he continues to caucus with us means that Chuck Schumer is the majority leader, which is.
Well, it's all the judiciary at this point, right?
Huh?
I mean, it's all the judiciary, and which is the ability to get KBJ on the Supreme Court as opposed to no Joe
yeah.
Manchin.
If we didn't have the majority, and we would not have gotten all these judges that we've gotten through, and Biden has gotten a whole bunch of judges through, and thank God. That's why we have to do everything we can to keep the Senate. Why we have to get Warnock done, and we have to defeat Johnson. Well, we have to pick up Pennsylvania. Well, we have to really focus on that. And people listening to the majority report in those states and elsewhere should be doing everything they can to make sure that we keep the Senate. But we also have so many places we need to focus on, including states' attorney general and state secretaries of state. I mean, what the Alito decision just crystallized to me more than ever is just how anti-majoritarian the Republicans are. They don't care about, they're perfectly happy to be a minority party. The Senate is a wildly anti-minority, skewed. I think the Republicans represent about 45% of America there. The Supreme Court is now 6-3, which they did by stealing 2 seats. And then just think of the decisions they've made over the years. Citizens United. You know, when Kennedy wrote that opinion, the opinion for that, and he said, what's great about this is that it's going to be disclosure.
Yeah.
Right? That's in the friggin' decision. And then we lost Ted Kennedy's seat when Scott Brown came in, and it was 59-41, and we couldn't pass disclosure. And I don't understand why, like, Kennedy can't go like, oh, you know what, we should revisit this because there's no disclosure. And I have an interesting story in terms about Republican stupidity. So a lot of my colleagues at the time had always been saying, like, we don't need, they were against McCain-Feingold, and they said, well, what we need is just disclosure. We just need disclosure. Sunshine's the greatest disinfectant, and all these, there's like 16 of them had voted. And then when we get to the votes, and I knew it was going to be 59-41, I sat in the well, and I would just, like, McConnell would come up, and I go, what happened to Sunshine's the greatest disinfectant? And he'd ignore me, of course, and just vote no. And so I would bug them, and at one point, this is a very stupid thing. I won't say who this senator is, but I say to him, what about disclose, Sunshine's? And he goes, well, some people don't have to disclose under this. I go, no, labor unions have to disclose. He goes, well, the New York Times doesn't have to disclose if it does an editorial for someone. And I said, it's in the New York Times. And he went, oh, yeah. Down, you know.
Who was that? Come on.
What?
You don't have to say who it was, but what state did they represent?
It's got to be Portman, right?
Idaho.
Or Johnson, geez.
Idaho.
All right, well, I know you gotta...
There's 2 of them. It's one or the other.
There we go.
I know you gotta go in a minute, but let me just get your thoughts on the KBJ hearings, because I really I was watching those. Dianne Feinstein, I think, people can read the half dozen stories that she's not necessarily aware of where she is at the moment. I'm sympathetic to that, but I also don't think that should be a senator, one of 100 people in the country who are running the country.
It's sad.
It's sad.
It's sad.
But it's much sadder that she's a senator. I mean,
Yes. Yeah. That's true. It's sad in both respects, and someone should have said don't run for re-election in the last election, because she was already headed in that direction, and it is too bad.
there doesn't seem to be any plan in that situation to say, like, somebody's got to do something. You just get the sense that everybody's looking around, but that was not the point of. What do you think that? Just give me your thoughts about how the Democrats ran that, because
I was angry watching that, because the Republicans in that were just incredibly offensive, and I'm talking about, well, there was Cruz, of course, and Lindsey, and Cotton, and Hawley especially, and Blackburn, but I don't know if she counts in a certain way. But anyway, but Hawley knew what he was doing, and even before the questioning started, he had come out very much again and had been lying about it. And a guy in National Review, a conservative magazine, wrote a thing about that and said that what he was doing pretty much amounted to demagoguery. And part of the thing he was doing was she was on the Sentencing Commission, and there was a discussion in the commission on sentencing on possession of these images, and some witness said, now, people who possess these images aren't necessarily pedophiles. And she kind of said back to him, so people who possess these images aren't necessarily pedophiles? ? And he just took her out of context and put a period there instead of a question mark. And he was called on it, and then he did it again. He did it in the hearing. And one of the Democrats should have gone like, here's this National Review article. He's calling you on this, and you just did it again. And you knew it was there. This is disgusting, what you're doing. And I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if the instruction was just don't make any waves so that we can get her through with 50 or 51 if we have to, or what the deal was. But we got to go on offense. We got to go on offense, and part of that is I enjoyed being on Judiciary, and part of what I really enjoyed about it was questioning people I didn't like.
Well, you were great at it. Al, can't thank you enough for sticking around.
Sorry, I have to go.
I know.
Okay.
We got to do this again. Maybe if we do another show like California.
Yeah.
I'm joking. We'll do it. Ladies and gentlemen, Al Franken. All right, so we were gonna, it doesn't matter. Everybody's gonna be watching both the fun half and the not free half of the first half of the show.
Right, because they paid for all of it.
Yeah, so we can...
Thank you for your money.
We can... Folks, thank you so much for coming out. It has been... we've got much more show to go, but I wanted to get Al out here because he had to get on a flight, and so I wanted to make sure. But last night I went to an old haunt in Cambridge that I hadn't been to in 28 years, which is terrifying to say, because I was legal when I went there. And it was the Plow and Stars. And I, back when it was during the the Anita, I guess it was the Clarence Thomas hearings, and I'd started taking pictures of my TV. I don't even think we had VCRs. We had VCRs or something, but I was taking pictures of my TV, laminating them on a foam core board and putting magnets on it and sitting in the plow selling them to buy beer. Yeah.
So many
Yeah, I mean,
steps.
it's not a story I should tell, actually, now that I think about it. But
Hello.
But I met a couple who'd flown in from Portland to see the show, and they were just randomly at the plow. I know we have people from Portland. I think we have people who came in as far as Fitchburg. You're gonna take Route 2. You come over, maybe you come right into the city, and then take 93 down or something. But in New Bedford, we probably had people.
This is Sam's masshole bit.
Yeah, well, my sister wanted me to do the bit about actually literally do, I think when we announced the show, that I was going to be talking about how people got to the show. They took Route 9, or maybe they took 128, and they came down on the Pike. But we're not going to do that. We're actually going to do more content. I need to find out what the timing is if our guest is here for the debate yet. But I'll tell you what. Let's just play. Let's play this video, and then we're going to have a special fun half song that is sort of like a throwback. But let's play this video. This video. And I know there's some people here who don't, who may not watch the show regularly, but for whatever reason, they're walking around the street and they just saw the sign, they came in. This video needs almost no comment or context other than this is a clip of one of Jimmy Dore's former, almost like regular guests, like almost like co-hosts.
Well, it's fitting that we do Jimmy content here because apparently I've seen he plays videos of me at his live show.
Is that right?
We've talked about this. You forget half the things I tell you, right? But and they boo and hiss, right?
It's like the hate in 1984.
Yeah.
Yes. This is your couple of minutes. It's not actual hate. You're going to actually enjoy this.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are farming out our criticism of Demi Jor to this dude, Graham Elwood. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay, great. A bunch of texts. Jimmy's going live. I don't give a fuck if Jimmy's going live. What's Jimmy going to talk about today? Some chinless cunt that dad worked for the fucking Clintons is saying stupid bullshit about a vaccine that nobody gives a fuck about because now there's a treatment from Pfizer? Fantastic. Boy, that's riveting. Shitbirds. All right. Yeah, like, share, subscribe. Motherfuckers. Go watch those fucking culty idiots over there. Morons. God damn it. Good. Jimmy's stream crashed? Oh, thoughts and prayers. That's weird. I wonder why. One of his BMWs hit the router? All right. Oh, fuck. You know what? I don't even have a... All right. We're finally in Rockfin. That took me 10 minutes to re-log into. What do you fucking say to me? Who fucking said this shit in the fucking chat? What fucking idiot said something stupid in the chat? He made you, bro. Oh, fuck yourself. Yeah, you're gonna be blocked for the rest of your dumb life. Oh, did you say that when he was criticizing Cenk? You fucking cunt. Yeah. Boom. Shitbird. Hide. Yeah, God forbid you hold an alcoholic accountable.
The context of that, right? Wasn't he one of Jimmy's biggest friends or defenders?
Yes, I mean, Jimmy is just alienating people around him. I suspect, it sounds like there's a little resent about the BMWs. But that was, that I have framed. I've turned it into an NFT. It is, you will be hearing drops from that clip on the show.
Yeah. The router thing, yeah.
Forever and ad infinitum. But now we're going to head into the fun half of the show. And for folks who used to listen to the program, when did we make the shift?
Maybe 2016 or 17?
2016 or 17, we had to pull our music from our YouTube stream because we were getting locked up because of it. And prior to that, we got on a jag for, I guess, about 8 years, 7 years of playing every version of the French pop song La Poupée that had been ever made, from Jimi Hendrix version to like ones that we found from Japan. I mean, just
Eurovision.
Well,
everywhere.
'cause it's for use, right? Was that, it was
No.
for use?
No,
Oh.
it was just, that was...
Oh.
That's why we got in trouble at
We had an ASCAP license for the podcast, but you can't do that on YouTube.
Oh.
And so, but now, Ted Leo and Combat Zone are gonna play the best version.
C'est une poupée qui fait non, 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 non. Toute la journée, elle fait non, 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 non. Elle est tellement jolie. Que je me rêve la nuit. Bambolina che fa no, 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 no. È così carina e fa no, 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 no. È già un tipo come lei. Non l'ho incontrato mai. Es una muñeca, ese no, 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 no. Con su carretera, le hace no, 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 no. Es tan bonita. Que la sueño por la noche. Stai la pupa, dai me nai, 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 nai. Den Ratzental und sagt, sie me nai, 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 nai. Sie ist wirklich sehr süß. In den
So awesome. So awesome. So as you saw at the beginning of the show, there was a video that was posted prior to the January 16th version of this show, as you all know. 16th.
The big live.
The big live show. And we reached out to that guy and said, let's have a debate in Boston. We're here. Come down. He, as you saw on the emails, agreed, but apparently he's not here, and we're going to do it through Zoom. Am I going to be able to route it through?
Yeah, I can get him now.
Okay. All right. So let's get him going.
My program's not streaming.
I'm not seeing
it's
it.
freezing.
It'll be 20 minutes, all right? Just sit over there. You're fine. You're fine.
It's freezing now.
Oh, look at this guy. He's coughing. All right. You got a beer. I want to welcome from the Ken and Ken Show, Ken.
What?
Ken from the Ken and Show.
Okay, it's the Deuce. My name is the Deuce, and I can barely hear you.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was Ken and Ken Show.
All right, you're on a delay, and I can barely hear you.
All right, Ken. Well, I thought it was Ken. I'm
Is
sorry.
this supposed to be a gotcha? It's the Ken and Ken Show, okay? I filled in for Ken when he left the show, and then Ken and the other Ken left, but people like the name. There's no, I don't know why you're making an issue of that, all right? This is like why people hate liberals, because you get so uppity about things and tell people like what names have to be names that are unnatural, okay? You can't even define a woman, all right? You're censoring people, all right? You're authoritarian, all right? You're like the Nazis without any of the good stuff.
Okay. My understanding is you were coming here today in person. We had everything set up. What happened?
I can't hear you. I can barely hear you, all right?
Okay.
I think...
I'm
All right,
asking.
there's a delay. All right, first off, you have people in there wearing masks. Hello, it's 2022, all right? When are you going to stop with your obsessive chin diaper usage? It's like your chins are walking around taking poops, and so you got to wear diapers on them all the time. And you people are like married to the lockdowns. You love the lockdowns. It's like you're gay married to lockdowns. It's like the lockdown is a guy and you're a guy and you groom each other and then get gay married, all right? And so when I got there, I was told by the people who work there that everybody was vaccinated inside and there's no way I'm getting into a closed space near that. No way.
Wait, you're not getting into a closed space with vaccinated people? I don't understand.
I can't hear you.
What?
Okay.
What?
You people are like Disney-fied sheeple. You're like all from Disney, and you have been infected with Bill Gates' DNA, and I'm not going to catch that, all right? That's where COVID comes from. You got vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And you got COVID, right? Correct. Okay, that's where COVID comes from. So now I can't be in there. I got to be here because I can't go to my place because the internet's down and they won't let me into the radio station on the weekend. So
Okay, wait. So you're here. You're in the building. Are you saying that you're in the building in a different place?
this is why people hate socialist shitlibs like yourself. I'm here at my mom's, all right, to escape all you walking wounded or soon to be walking wounded Fauciarians or whatever you call yourself.
Fauciarians.
Who are you?
Okay.
What are you doing here?
Mom, I got to use the internet. Just give me like 20 minutes, okay?
So you're unvaccinated and you're around your mother.
What?
You're unvaccinated.
I can't hear you. There is a delay.
You're unvaccinated around.
Yeah, I'm unvaccinated. And so I'm protecting my mother, who is also unvaccinated, by being unvaccinated with her.
It's freezing out.
So, wait, how old is your mother? How old is your...
What? Did you just ask me how old my mother was?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's a HIPAA violation. It's none of your business how old she is. She's protected, okay? She's got a gun. I got her a gun.
Wait. She's got a gun. She's going to shoot COVID?
Well, I can't hit...
She's going to shoot...
No, she's not going to shoot COVID. She's going to shoot
vaccinated people trying to get near her and give her COVID, all right? She has to be careful. She's got dementia.
Wait, okay.
Ma, it's me, Ma. I'm debating a soy boy.
All right, we haven't really started debating.
Let's
Streaming.
hold.
It's freezing.
I can't hear you, all right?
Hello?
No. Ma, I can hear you.
Where's my show?
Ma, I'm doing a debate.
What are you doing in my house? What are you doing
Ma, I'm doing a
here?
debate.
Listen,
Get out.
if we need to
Ma,
do
put
this,
the gun down. I'm doing a debate.
we can do
okay?
it later. Did
Call that one a draw?
was awkward.
Is that guy dead?
So I'm sorry that didn't work out. Not as productive of a debate that I was hoping we would have with him. Maybe there'll be another opportunity. Not quite sure. But speaking of Shure.
Whoa. Whoa. That's a professional broadcaster.
There you go. That's
there
called
we
a segue. That was interesting, that debate.
We should have had a trigger warning.
Yeah.
He got some good punches in before he got shot by his mom.
Did you mean to say that?
Yeah.
The trigger warning?
Yes. I'm just that smart.
Quite a pun. Yeah. All right, so our next guest is a columnist at the New Republic. She's returning to the show, Natalie Shure. We didn't work out that whole handshake, welcome people to the stage thing that well. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us. You wrote, you write about all sorts of different things. Your column in New Republic, but you most recently wrote about Roe v. Wade. It was a fascinating piece, and I have to say that, like, my perspective was that this could be something that changes 2022. Al Franken had an idea as to how maybe to, develop another wedge issue out of the decision, but was not directly dealing with Roe v. Wade. You wrote a piece arguing that the assumption that Roe v. Wade is going to be an electoral boon for either the Democrats or the Republicans is probably not the case. Give us at least, set up that, before you get to that actual premise, set up what you talked about, where Roe v. Wade is not really the category of issue that we presume it is.
So I've never hoped I'm wrong more than I do about this. And if I am wrong and people want to come back with clips of me saying this, I would be thrilled. Would love to be wrong. But I think that Democrats are unlikely to be helped by this for a few reasons. One is that I think that we've already gotten most of the juice out of that squeeze. People who report caring about abortion the most, who report prioritizing it above other issues. And we do know that it's a very popular thing. More than half of the people in this country do support safe, legal abortion in at least some or many cases. But the people who are likely to say that it's their number one issue are mostly younger professional class women who are, middle or high earners. Those people are already with the Democratic Party. Another thing I think you have to remember is that for the most part, people don't go to shows like this. They don't pay attention to the news and politics. They tend to vote for who their friends vote for, who their social universes vote for. And I think that, for the most part, the new voters that we would need are probably going to be a little slower to evolve. And, at the end of the day, I think that what we have to do is reconstitute the base that's voting for Democrats, change those social worlds, change those institutions. It's a very, very large project. And unfortunately, beyond maybe an election or two, knock on wood, even getting that, I think, would be significant. I'm not sure that this will be a politically transformative moment in terms of electoral turnout.
And your argument is that this is really more of a class issue in terms of the implications of it, at least at this, I guess, stage of the Supreme Court journey, right? I mean, this is reversing Roe v. Wade, and I think in multiple states, Roe v. Wade has already been effectively overturned, at least insofar as, like, if Roe v. Wade is about accessibility and Casey was about where states could constrain that accessibility, they've already, Casey opened the door for a lot of that, and not quite the so-called trap laws where, like, if you're going to have an abortion clinic, you need like a vaulted ceiling and, stained glass, whatever it was. I mean, like, literally, there was stuff that was almost like that. But for a lot of women in this country, it is either not available in their state, and for, I think the percentage is like half the women who get an abortion have incomes of like under $18,000 annually, and so they don't have the ability to get that abortion in another state, or they just don't have access to it.
Yeah, I think that that's right. And I think that that also speaks to the role that abortion has played in politics up to this point. I think that it's important to realize that abortion has largely been something that the right has glommed onto to whip up votes for oligarchy, right? That is their agenda. They are trying to cut taxes, get rid of regulations, all these other things, and they've been remarkably successful at it, right? Starting in the 70s, early 80s, when you start to see the religious right coalesce and you start to see abortion rise as such an important issue. And, I think it is important to see the way that the laws that you're talking about have panned out and the way that the Hyde Amendment has worked. They basically are happy to keep chipping away at access for the poorest women, right?
Remind people what the Hyde Amendment is, because I'm not sure that people have the fluency with it.
Yeah, so the Hyde Amendment is a budget rider that basically forbids federal funds for being used for abortions. So that in a lot of these states that have very limited access is how people would get abortions through Medicaid. It affects a couple other people, Medicare, the Peace Corps, things like that. Medicaid is the big one, and those are, of course, a lot of people who genuinely need help paying for abortions. And for a lot of the people who need abortion most, they've been living in a post-Roe world or something like it for a long time. And I think that, insofar as this is something that will always affect the poorest women the most severely, I think that we have to look at it as a class issue. That's why the Republicans are doing it. They're fighting it as a top-down class issue. Yeah.
And the way you're articulating it is absolutely right in terms of the long-term goals of the Republican project, as opposed to, frankly, and I guess I'm harping on this a little bit today, the way that the Democratic leadership has characterized it as a symptom of the Trump cult, basically a post-2016 project, which is just, honestly, guys, right? What are the foundational issues of the Republican Party over the past, 5-6 decades, or 5 decades with abortion? It's cutting taxes for the rich, and it's anti-abortion. There are a few other exceptions. It's a fundamentally racist party as well. But how do we fight, or how do our elected Democratic representatives and senators fight against an enemy that they can't even characterize accurately?
So I think it's verbally a somewhat easy answer, and actually doing it is in no way easy. And I think that to me, insofar as they are doing class war from above, the answer is class war from below. So when I was talking about institutions, really what I was getting at is we need to, reconstitute the class base of the Democratic Party. And I think that the most clear and viable way to do that, not just now, not just in the United States, but historically and across time and space, the very clear answer to how to do that is the labor movement.
Yes.
I want to get back to sort of, where we can address this, but I want to go back to the Hyde Amendment for a moment too, just because I think like this, the Hyde Amendment as you're, laying out your, and in your piece, you don't bring up the Hyde Amendment, but I think that was also an indication of, there really, at the time, the idea was like, well, abortion's icky. So maybe we're not going to pay for that with our tax dollars. Bombing people is icky, but we all have to pay for that with our tax dollars. And personally, anything involving surgery to me is icky. Like I when we did our little blood test in high school, I had to have my partner do it. I can't deal with that. But the idea that we would say, well, with Medicaid, it pays for everything, but it's just not going to pay for, if you have, appendicitis. It's not going to pay for appendicitis, or it's not going to pay for, some other surgical procedure. It would seem completely bizarre. And the fact is, in this country, up until maybe June, your right to get medical care included both an appendicitis and an abortion. And we would never say that about Medicaid can't cover this one medical procedure. Was that when the Democrats sort of punted on that, and they've punted on it a couple of times, how much of it was like they're respecting people's moral qualms, or how much of it was,
well, it's the price you pay.
Don't vote that much,
yeah.
Or that like we can throw those people under the bus because they don't have that much political power.
I think it's all of the above, right? Like they don't want to have that fight every time it comes time to draft a new budget. They are very happy to avoid the fight. And, once you notice that elected Democrats barely ever even use the word abortion publicly, you can't unsee it. They will talk about, women's health, the right to choose, obviously referring to abortion, but will not use the word and will not, in most cases, full-throatedly fight for it in a confrontational way, the way that they would need to were it not there. So I think that they are very happy to take it off the table. And if you look at the rest of, Democrats are going to be better than Republicans in every situation, don't get me wrong. I am not one of those people who's going to sit here and say that they are the same. But, the fact is, when you look at who has been thrown under the bus politically, it is the people who need abortions.
Yeah, part of it's they're conceding, right. They're conceding the, principle of punishment to the right. I mean, we can talk about trans rights in a minute maybe, but part of what's so frustrating about the way the Democrats approach these issues, and there was a Politico piece, maybe it's time for us now to start, the consultants were saying, fighting back against some of these anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-abortion bills in state legislatures. Yes, you think, with the midterms coming up, but frankly, they're a little more comfortable than than is appropriate, or it makes me queasy with the concept of punishment for abortion, right? If you're getting pregnant and you're promiscuous, that's how they think. Well, you're going to have to pay fully out of pocket for that abortion because that's just the tax on you being the kind of woman who would need an abortion. And so the only way to combat that kind of deranged thinking is with an all-out offensive. And yet, they are always conceding that point to the right. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing with the rollback of these rights today.
I think, unfortunately, when Republicans get in office, they do attempt to wield their power in any way that they can. And I wish Democrats would start doing more of that.
On some level, I think the attempts over the past couple of decades to tiptoe around things, in 2004, there was a big push. Hillary Clinton was part of that. There were others who were saying, maybe we need to ease off and not be so, I don't even know, in your face. I feel like people wave their abortions around in your face, but, and maybe that was just the absolute 100% wrong tack, that abortion should have been normalized rather than been treated as some, trauma for people, because for most people who get abortions, it is not traumatic. I mean, it's not, much less traumatic than open heart surgery, and we would never tiptoe I don't want to. It's just a choice, or whatever. Okay, it's one thing to say it's not going to have an electoral impact between now and 2022, and in November, I guess, really, 6 months. Holy shit. There may be knock-on things that they do that, like Franken said, make them vote on contraception, because Alito, I get the sense he's not pushing this because he wants oligarchy. He wants oligarchy, but he has other mechanisms to do that. There's an EPA case which could completely obliterate the government's ability to regulate, and that's going to help the oligarchs a lot more, frankly, than them overturning Roe v. Wade at this point. Like you say, it's not going to help Republicans that much. But once it's in effect, and once these bans start taking place, and is there going to be a point where maybe it becomes less of a class issue, an economic class issue? Like if there's a federal ban and Steve Bannon is the Attorney General, and the incentive structure is for the U.S. attorney that we appoint in southern Manhattan, they want to land some big convictions of wealthy doctors who are providing wealthy people abortions. I mean, is there somewhere along that spectrum where it becomes more of a political issue in your estimation?
Well, I think it's definitely inescapably a political issue, and I think that the class
electoral issue, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the class lines could change somewhat, and frankly, probably start to resemble maybe the class lines that existed before Roe. People have always gotten abortions throughout history. Legal abortion has not existed for all that long in the continuum of human life, and there have always been ways to do it. I think that if you are a CEO of a company or the partner of a CEO at a company, you will always be able to go get an abortion somewhere. That doesn't mean that there won't be more difficulty, more criminalization, and all of those things are very serious. I think that ultimately, it's not that abortion in and of itself, illegalizing abortion, is good for oligarchy. It's that abortion has been such a powerful issue for them to drum up votes that they wouldn't get by being honest about what their agenda is. Oligarchy is very unpopular.
As is theocracy, right?
Well, they can't say no to any popular movement, right? That's why you see them playing footsie with QAnon as well, right? Like they can't say no to something like that that gives them what the donors want and doesn't, it can amplify their turnout.
Yeah, and I think, the more and more oligarchic and further to the right they get, the more they are beholden to these 100%. Arch conservative social movements. And, you are right. I think another reason why I think abortion won't necessarily have an immediate electoral, or the fall of Roe won't necessarily have an immediate electoral impact is because they have all of these other issues locked and loaded. Like the way that, they've terrorized trans kids in all of these places. I think that they are trying to achieve the same movement ends, trying to whip people up into a frenzy, communicate with these circles so that they can keep getting those votes that they have relied on and that are frankly more geographically conveniently located than the Democratic base, which are scrunched into cities, and the Senate being what it is, that's a big problem.
I mean, I guess that is the big question. It's like if abortion was, with the beauty of Q is whatever that day of reckoning is probably not coming. And so they can keep, sort of playing these things out a little bit. But is there not a the dog that caught the car scenario here where maybe it doesn't, once Roe v. Wade has been overturned, that some of that cohort of people they were single issue voters, and that's their single issue, and now it's not as urgent?
I think that's wishful thinking, and I think that's when we get back to the idea that most people vote for who their friends and family vote for, or who people at their church vote for. Knock on wood, in the future, hopefully who other people they know from their union hall votes for, which is part of why building different social infrastructure. One thing that really stuck out to me while I was researching this piece that kind of speaks to what you're saying is there's this news outlet called Life News, which is just a whole news outlet for anti-abortion content. I'm sure you can picture it. And I noticed lately in their Twitter feed, they have all of this stuff about trans people. They're basically just trying to, I don't know how long they've been doing it. I wasn't going to sit there and scroll through their feed all day, but they are absolutely cognizant of the fact that they are going to have to pivot in terms of, how to whip people up into a frenzy today.
Right, and the only thing I think that I would say my wishful thinking, and I would have to say that I think it's at least 60% wishful thinking. But I think the reason why I think it's maybe only 60% or 55 is...
Thank you for that distinction.
5% is pretty big. I mean, you're only 5% away from 49-51. The off-year elections are really about turnout. So it's not really about, the Democrats and the Republicans have their pool of voters, and for the most part. And it's really just a question of how many are going to show up on an off-year election. In 2018, Republicans set a record for the number of people they drove out. It's just that Democrats set an even bigger record for turnout. And much of that was, at least from the social science that I've read, was attributed to a lot of women who would vote maybe on the on-year election, but were so energized that they came out in record numbers in the midterm. Isn't that possible?
I can't pin it on a number as specifically as you did.
54%.
With your 55. I don't know. So, there was a demonstrable, uptick in women voting for Democratic, but it wasn't huge given the number of headlines that it drove. For the most part, men and women within a specific social demographic vote similarly. People vote how others in their household do most of the time. And this was like the biggest split. And I think it was something around, an 8% difference. And that was considered massive. So, it makes it a little harder. Turnout is a game changer in some cases, but sometimes it changes the game in ways we don't expect. I think, wasn't it the Virginia gubernatorial election just had massive turnout, which is usually thought of as good for Democrats, and that's not how it shook out.
Right. Well, let's just play this one clip that we have, since Mitch McConnell's getting a lot of attention today. I want you to think about this is the Republican messaging, at least in the Senate, and I think we're going to get a lot. Obviously, like if we play, I should have probably waited to put that up. Here's McConnell's messaging. As you get to the end of this, think about what the Democratic messaging is.
Today on the Senate floor, Democrats will prove their party has been totally captured by the far-left fringe. My colleague, the Democratic leader, controls the schedule. He decides what we vote on. From inflation to border crisis to violent crime, there's no shortage of problems that deserve attention. But alas, today, Democrats have decided to line up behind an extreme and radical abortion policy. Our Democrat colleagues want to vote for abortion on demand through all 9 months, until the moment before the baby is born. A failed show vote that will only prove their own extremism.
So, all of that is warranted. But the argument is that in protecting a woman's right to get an abortion, Democrats are getting even more abortion-y in some way. And like, I don't know, like on-demand abortion, there's no such, like you gotta, like it's not like, you don't pull a lever, you gotta go to a doctor. And you can sign up on your computer, like we do it through like Netflix and you just download a movie. But there's no Democratic messaging.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that guy, but he's ruthlessly effective, and I wish we had one.
Yeah.
The most effective politician in 50 years, maybe versus Reagan. I don't know, but unfortunately.
Well, is there any good news, Natalie, before we...
Yeah, I mean, not to bang the same drum, but a lot of industries are unionizing right now that people are very skeptical about their short-term prospects. So that's a huge deal. And of course, for the first time, we do have some really class-forward Democrats in office, and I think that that's a really good thing. And I would love for them to have more colleagues so that they can build more power in the government. And so, if there's a class struggle candidate near you and you'd like to get involved and you're capable of getting involved, I would absolutely encourage you to do that.
And I should just add, people were wondering, why does Bernie Sanders want to be why does he want to be the head of the Labor Department? And I think it was reported, recently that he would have been had Ossoff or Warnock lost in Georgia, and it wasn't going to be a 50-50 Senate because they couldn't rely on Vermont to replace Sanders with someone who would caucus with the Democrats. But we're seeing a National Labor Relations Board is already having an impact for organizing on the ground. And a lot of that is a function of Bernie Sanders and everything and that movement that grew around that time. All right, well, Natalie, will you stick around? I want to invite the two activists from Boston who have been involved with Extinction Rebellion, John Burkhardt and Nora Maynard. Come on out and just get a sense of what's going on in Boston and Massachusetts. Nora, why don't you start and just tell us a little bit about what Extinction Rebellion is, what the philosophy is, and maybe how you got involved with it.
Well, the philosophy is that we are very short on time to save the climate. We know we have 7 years to get to zero emissions. Like, yeah, right?
Less, right?
Really should have been a long time ago. And so the idea is that it is extremely urgent and we are not doing enough. And as much as that can be a difficult message to take on when we have so many things to deal with in our life, it's a climate emergency. That's the primary message. Personally, I got involved, I was trying to get involved in activism for some time. What really got me on board with XR was when the Amazon was burning. And I showed up for some rallies and then gradually got involved leading songs and chants. Since I've led, as a voice teacher, I've led group classes, teaching protest songs and such. Thanks. And John, what would you say about XR's mission and how you got involved?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done anything like this before in my life. I was aware of environmental issues. I watched Inconvenient Truth. I kind of thought I was informed and paying attention. And I was actually working for Google. I do software. I was working for Google at the time when the 2018 IPCC report came out. And that was like, I think for a lot of people, that was a turning point for the climate movement. And for me personally, I just went into like a fight or flight panic attack reading that because I was under the impression that things were going okay. Like my neighbors were putting up solar panels, people were buying electric cars. I'm like, yeah, this is like, we're gonna muddle through it. And they were talking about, here are the consequences of failing to meet Paris. Here's what's gonna happen if we fail. And it's like horrific. It's like a catastrophic to civilization. And the time frames, were like much, much sooner than had been in my consciousness. I had sort of imagined that it was hundreds of years away or something. I have 3 children. My oldest is 28 years old. He was recently married. He's actually about to graduate college, like in a week, so it's awesome. But his wife has been like, graduate, get a job, and then they're gonna, she wants to have kids. And so I think about, you look at these timelines, 2050, 2075, and I think that's my grandchild's lifetime right there. And I can't think about anything else really. Yeah.
What was it that about this IPCC report? I mean, like...
No, so honestly, like I had never even heard of them, the IPCC before, like I didn't even know what they were, and I think it was, that one in 2018, the tone really did change, like from what I understand. And that's also like sort of coincidentally right when Extinction Rebellion came onto the scene, and it seemed like it was a coincidence in a way. Like they had actually been planning for years. They had done a lot of organizing for years. It seemed like they just kind of came out of nowhere, but they had done years of essentially going around the country. This is in England, going around the country and giving talks to audiences and telling people, "Hey, look, this is what the science is actually saying. We have to pay attention to this because." I guess the other thing that they did in their origination was thinking about the climate movement to date, and if you just look at the trajectory of what's happened, had to recognize that climate activism had failed, had not had an impact. I mean, you could say that about about the entire project of having organized society and civilization. Like we've just sort of failed to address this issue and to really confront it. And then anyway, that report came out and it was like very consistent with what they were saying. And the message I took away, I found out about them, I read their website, and it was basically like, I can sum it up as, hey, scientists are telling us we have to do everything possible immediately, like right now, and we're not. We're not responding for some reason, society's not responding, our government's not responding, and we're not having it.
So give us a sense, Nora, you told me a little bit about some of the recent things you did. I want to talk about those, and then I want to talk about, tell us about some of the sort of the protests that you guys orchestrated over the past couple of months?
Absolutely. So the past few months, for one thing, we had our Earth Day parade to end fossil fuel use, which was really, really fun. We had several die-ins around the city of Boston, like at the Prue, for example, and where we would stop and have a little statement about how there's a climate emergency and we cannot properly celebrate Earth Day until we end fossil fuel use. And then at that point, we can have a little bit more free celebration. But have the die-in, but also a parade, really fun. Like people were waking up from the die-in, line dancing to stay alive because we have hope and we will move forward together, and yeah. So that was a parade that was recently for Earth Day in April. I loved that. I have been involved in a few direct actions that also had a few statements about public policy. For example, last September, I was involved in a group that put a pink sailboat about the same width as a regulation car and about 20 feet long, hot pink sailboat that said climate emergency and just transition in the governor's driveway. And that was a real experience. It got me actually a lot more involved. I felt like I was already all in, and then all of a sudden I was learning about a lot of other causes as well. And I mean, one of the main things that we were protesting was the Peabody Peaker plant, which we have a protest coming up for soon.
And I believe there was 8 activists who just ended, I guess it was about a month ago, they ended a hunger strike to draw more attention to it. And I guess, the thing is, when we hear your story, it puts into, I think, really a good focus as to the value of these protests. Because there are people out there who are just, you don't know at what moment they're going to bump into the reality of what we're facing, and it's certainly something that we don't hear much talk about. I mean, we do a daily show, we don't even bring it up that much because presumably our audience has heard it, but you guys are reaching people who are not listening to a daily podcast.
That's right. I mean, you were just talking about, how people vote and how they are influenced by the people around them and their family or their peers. And that's part of our theory of change as well, that we do respond from what's happening around us, people we identify with, people we may recognize in our community. And when people see people doing this, like they see people, Nora's a little modest, like they locked themselves at this boat. Like they had to saw them off the boat for hours. And when people see people doing that kind of direct action, saying, look, this is so important to me that I'm willing to risk my freedom. I'm willing to risk being arrested over it to make this statement. It is very powerful. That is how we make a lot of decisions. We think that we analyze information and we are very careful about decision making, but a lot of it is emotional and a lot of it is just about what the people around us are doing and talking about.
As activists, how do you balance, I guess, calls for individual action? Because I know, I try to reduce my carbon footprint, but there's only so much that I can do and everyone else in this audience and in this room can do, versus targeting government actors who are really just, because of their own, incentive structure and because they're interested in maintaining their own power, they don't really, there's no urgency on their behalf to save their own skin unless there's mass pressure, targeting them. So how do you balance those different calls to action on the individual level and on the governmental level?
That is a really hard question, and one that I think we have to keep revisiting in ourselves all the time. We have to continually ask ourselves, what is my capacity and where am I best suited to be acting? And where am I going to have my most personal impact I think that is a balancing act constantly. But I think we need to make sure we have some of both. and keep going back and forth frequently to say, okay, what am I doing that's impacting globally? What am I doing that's impacting policy? What am I doing in my personal life to feel consistent with my values?
And John, if folks want to get involved.
Actually, I just wanted to follow up on that too,
Sure.
and my own answer. So a few years ago, actually, I think it was the first year that we were active in Boston, which was 2019. There was a natural gas industry conference here in Boston, and one of our members snuck in to the keynote address to watch the keynote, and the keynote speech was all about how to defeat climate protests at your pipeline project. It was basically like, because it's a problem for them. Like like the Keystone XL pipeline was effectively canceled by people getting out there and lying down in front of bulldozers and getting in front of it. So they were talking about like how do they defeat it, and one of the ways that this person, I can't remember the person's name now, but in the keynote he essentially said that, well, one of our major tactics that we want to do is shift the blame of this problem onto individuals, make individuals feel like they want you to feel like it's your fault. Right? That you're the ones who've done this. It's your fault for consuming too much, for being, using too much gas, et cetera, et cetera. That is one of the tactics that they've said is going to defeat, that they're using to defeat the kind of work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So John, or I guess, and Nora, you can answer too. If folks want to get involved here or around the country, a lot of people are from around the country. What do they do?
You should go to xrmass.org, xrmass.org. Look at our events. We've got a protest coming up on May 26th to try to defeat the Peabody Peaker plant.
And you can find those around the country. John Burkhardt?
We're active in every city, I think 83 countries now, and we can also say on all 7 continents, because we have a little group in Antarctica. So it's like, but it has to be global. Like that's the part of this issue, is that it's not enough to just do what we can do in Massachusetts or in the United States. It's like we need the whole planet on board because it's everything.
We do. Yeah.
John, Nora, thank you so much. Natalie, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate your joining us, and I can't thank you enough. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
They are. All right. So we played this video in Brooklyn, and obviously this show was going to be the first time that we sort of all gathered here. Emma showed me a picture of a bunch of folks in the Discord. We're having brunch that she saw on Twitter. Shout out to the Discord.
Multi-level hype train. Oh wait, that's Twitch.
That's Twitch.
Sorry. I don't get it.
What? Poggers? What?
Oh, Poggers, bitch.
Poggers. So this show was originally scheduled for about 5 months ago, I guess, and to celebrate the January 6th anniversary. And but it was going to be the first time that we had all sort of come out, and the past couple of years were obviously tough for everybody. COVID, people lost people. We had a big loss on this show, as you all know. Michael Brooks, rest in power. So we asked DJ Danarchy to put together a tribute to Michael, and when we played it in Brooklyn, and wanted to play it again. When I first saw it, just to tell you, I thought Michael's not we don't see Michael in it as much as I had anticipated. And I watched it a bunch of times, and at one point I realized this speaks to the impact he had on the people who are around him. I mean, especially on the show and me, but we hear him, we don't see him, but you can see the reactions that I'm having, frankly, to him, and these are moments that we all miss on a daily basis. I know you guys do too. So this is from DJ Danarchy.
I got news for you. Have we ever had a tsunami here in Brooklyn?
That guy doesn't have his eye on the big picture.
Hello! Never one tsunami here.
Well, Sam, I'm very soft on the Brooklynites.
Look, hey, Steve, I missed you at softball practice. Where were you, buddy?
By the way, you went out of the baseline. That means that you are out, I'm afraid.
So my point being that if Steve Scalise comes to Brooklyn, he should wear blue. Sorry. Christianity is like my goatee, and Islam is like Chuck Todd's goatee. Do you see what I'm saying there? You see how one just works and the other does not?
All right, fair enough.
The woman's menstrual cycles control the stock market. People don't realize that. I would make love to a dead pig's head just to demonstrate. The same way the Peru and the Mexicos try to come over the border to influence the state auditor election.
That's exactly it.
This is the same thing.
No. The explanation would be this.
Don't interrupt me, Jew.
In Peru. Forgive me, holy say. You almost sounded like Martin Luther King at one point in that.
I'm so sick of corporate fucking sellouts like Sam Seder. On with Chris Hayes, two exhausted-looking lesbian men defending the Democratic establishment.
But when men do it, it's considered sexual harassment.
Really?
On point, motherfucker. What do you think of that, Samantha? Did you get the spit in your mouth, you little bitch? I bet you miss being sexually harassed with your estrogen.
So wait a second.
Connor, who sounds frankly like a cock himself, makes a strong point. Hey, Samantha, guess how old I was when I lost my virginity?
Okay. Appreciate the call.
Guess, you little bitch, guess.
I'm going to say you were young.
7, and she wanted more. Every time. If a Black Lives Matter try to take on my microphone, I will punch them in the face. The hashtag all lives matter, all lives matter. Sam, see, that's here on the business. This is like a Special Olympics.
I heard.
Don't trash talk the Dalai Lama. I'm not on board for this.
I just started to think that maybe the Dalai Lama, she'd have to be beautiful, otherwise little point.
Haven't you already?
Hey, Lucy, let me be clear. I'm Dalai Lama speaking here.
I was going to say,
that broad needs to be something else in order for people to listen. Okay? No one's going on this shit. Unless she's got a nice friggin' rack. Because the point is, it's a message of compassion.
Oh, we go with Andrew Dolly Clay? What is it?
Andrew Dolly Clay. Hey, whoa, listen up. Of course I can come back as a woman, but I'm not going to come back as a flat-chested broad, all right? Let's be real about it.
Mr. Trump pressed him on whether it would be honest loyalty.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be so hypocritical, because how many times have we been regaled with, okay, honest loyalty?
No, I mean...
I want full loyalty.
I have asked all of you
Everyone
to take
needs
a
to burn a
loyalty
picture
oath.
of Jimmy Dore in front of me right now. And then you rub the ashes on your hands, and then we prick blood together. It's like...
Well, but in my defense,
People call in defense of math, and you guys shut them down, and I don't appreciate it.
Could you imagine
makes the
if
world
Alan
go round,
Turing,
man.
instead of having a stupid math machine, was a real man, and he personally went into Germany and shot Hitler in the face? We could have shortened the war by years. But math nerds want credit because they were fiddling around with themselves and their numbers. And they want to torture the real leaders of the human race from accelerating forward, destroying fascism, destroying communism, and making the world, South Africa, and America great again. Destroy the mathematicians.
that's basically my answer.
Is everyone on the show aware of what algebra is? Because that was actually the math argument.
What is X? Who gives a fuck? I have lost my virginity. I hope that you are having a year of action. Make America great again. Make South Africa great again. Regards, Nelson Mandela.
If you get a chance on Twitter to thank DJ Danarchy for that, it's great stuff. We should actually just release it too, I think on YouTube. We should do that as well. But folks, it has been so great seeing you all here. I want to just thank our guests, obviously, Al Franken, Natalie Shure, John Burkhardt, Nora Maynard, and I've just been texted by Bradley. Supposedly, the Deuce just got a flesh wound. So that's good. Bradley, hop up here so that people can see you before. I want to thank Ted Leo and Combat Zone, Tim Brennan, may know him from the Dropkick Murphys, Hilken Mancini, Fuzzy, Chris Brokaw. Couldn't have made this more special for us. I just, it's so great. And they're gonna play us out of the show. So guys, come on up. In just a moment, you're the ushers. I guess we call them ushers? I don't know. It's like a wedding.
You're getting canceled.
We'll direct you. We're going to be selling merch and we're going to be signing stuff I'm not exactly sure where. They'll direct you as to where to line up.
Selfies and such.
Selfies and, just drop the mask quick.
Gotta be quick.
Gotta be quick. So again, thank you so much for coming out. Bradley, Emma, Matt, great show today. See you guys tomorrow.
It might take all the straight back out to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie I bought. So now finding out won't make me any better. Yeah, I know my clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess another choice was made. For the option where you don't get paid. For the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in. And my pilot light shining bright. are shifting in and out of gears, waiting for that moment to happen. I don't know how much longer I can stay in, or how much more I gotta pay to play. I know somewhere the lights got grading, somewhere before the credits fading. But my pirate light's shining, pirate light's shining, pirate light's shining bright.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.